Okay, so here it is. We're going to make a loop. First of all, these are the items that we'll need. You're going to need the wire. The wire is 16 gauge and it is stranded. Okay, it's not solid, it's made up of strands. Okay, so don't get the solid one. This is the right one. It has to be stranded. Stranded copper wire. It can be 16 gauge, which is what this is, or 18 gauge as well. A little bit thinner would also work. Okay, so what we need: insulation tape. You're going to need glue. You're going to need 2 pieces of conduit, 1/2 inch conduit, and we're going to need a T. Very important. This is the most important component. It's a 1/2 inch T, which is normally not gotten in the electrical but in the plumbing part of the hardware store. This is like an irrigation plumbing part. So that's what we're going to need. Alright, so to get started, I'll show you what we need to do. We have our wire ready, and I'm just going to cut this off so I have a clean end to work with. And you have to feed it through the top end because this is going to be the end of your loop. So it's got to go in here and then it's got to go out there. Right. You then feed it into the first part of the conduit. Feed it into the conduit until it comes out at the end of the conduit. You then take your second piece of conduit. Now notice it's got the end on it here for the join, but we don't want this join, okay, because it's going to go into the other side of the T. So all you do is you cut it off. Now we take this to the end of our conduit here, and now we continue feeding it through the second 10-foot piece of conduit. Until it comes out the other end. As soon as it comes out the other end, we are going to glue this. You don't want any water getting in there, and you want to make a good seal. So you're going to glue it like so. And what we're going to do then, you might want to let it dry for a couple of seconds, because you're now going to bend the whole conduit all the way around. You now grab the other end of the conduit holding the wire. Do not let go of the wire. If the wire goes back into the conduit, you've got to start over. Okay, so now we're bending this around. We're bending the conduit around back to the start position over here. And we're now going to take the wire, and it's going to go through there, and it's going to go straight through. So you want to go straight through, because that's how it's going to feed. This loop is one continuous wire, and it comes back on its end. Now we take our tape and we tape the wire, because we're going to use it now and we're going to pull it through. This wire has to be looped 3 times in the conduit. Now every time this tape comes out through here, that's one more time. Right now we've got one line in there. So now you start feeding and you pull. And you pull here, and that will just unwind, and you just keep pulling it around. Just keep pulling it. All I'm doing is pushing that up and pulling this back, pushing it up, pulling it back. And you're going to continue doing this until the conduit, the tape end comes around. Tape end is coming around, and there's your tape end. So right now you have got 2 wires in the conduit. We need 3. Okay, so that's 2, so you want to do it one more time. So off you go, feed it through, and now you're pulling. At this point you're pulling 3 wires over here, and you just keep going again. Until it gets to the end over here. Right, so once you've got this, now you have to undo the tape, and you have to take the piece, the end of it, okay, you want to take the end over here. Now you can pull it a little bit more, get some more. The end of this now goes through there and through the end, because that's where it's going to go. It's going to go back into the conduit, because these are going to get joined up. So what we do now, you pull, and you're going to have an extra piece over here. Now the more you feed through here, the more you're going to get slack on this side over here. Now, depending on how long your loop is, if it's an exit loop, you want to pull a lot of this through. So you want to keep going, and then you keep putting this through over here. You keep going, and at the same time you pull here. And if your exit loop is going to be 30 yards from the gate, you want this to be like 40 yards, give you a bit of extra. So whatever that is, once you now, I'm just going to do a short one just for demonstration. Once you get to that point now, you pull both ends, and you'll see the wires. You got to maybe jiggle a little bit, but when you pull both ends, it pulls the conduit together. Okay, and once you get to the point, you can now, I'm putting the camera high up because I'm going to lift this whole thing. We're then going to glue our T-piece, but the T-piece, it has to be glued out so that it points away from the circle, because that, you're going to be joining your conduit onto here, your next half-inch piece of conduit, all the way to the gate operator. So now we're going to glue this. Normally glue one side, put it in, pull it, okay, and then you glue the other side. Want a good seal. You then put it in and you pull the wires tight. Okay, it's important now at this point that you do not let go of this, because the glue is still wet and this thing could probably, it'll slip out most probably than not. Well, now the next step is you want the wire that you have just pulled through and the wire that's coming off the reel, you want them to be the same length, because that's what is going to be your connection for your loop. So I just pull them together until I get them the same length, and then I cut it off. So now you basically got two wires that are coming out of here, but in fact it's not, it's one wire that's just looped around and it's coming back on itself. So you're creating a continuous line with a coil in the middle, which is the loop, which then reads the metal of the vehicle so that it can activate the detector and communicate with the gate operator. So what I do is, once I've got my length, because I don't want this thing to snap out yet, I need the glue to dry, I then put it around, I just wind it around the conduit to the middle. I wind it around a couple of times and then just secure it there. And another trick is to actually, once you've cut this, to put tape on the end so they don't untangle, and then you have to try to connect the whole thing again. So there we go. So we got there, and now what you do is, once the glue has dried, you can then lay your loop out where you need it, and you will then put the rest of this wire, you will put in, you will get some more conduit and you'll just add it to here, and you'll run the conduit from here to the gate operator as far as it needs to go, and the wire will be in the conduit leading up to where the gate operator is, so that we can connect it. So if it's a long, like the exit loop, which will be really long, you'll have a lot of wire. It's better to take extra wire, because you can't add once it's been done, or you could put a joint on it, but it's not advisable, and you want it to be just one piece. So I'd rather take a little bit of extra wire on any of the loops, and then we just cut it down to what size we need. Okay, hopefully that would be helpful, and there's our loop. So pretty much the loop is done, and it's as easy as that. If you have any questions, don't call me.